A recent speech made some pretty bold claims, and we're going to take a deep dive into the facts and see what we can uncover. If you find this deep dive helpful, please like and subscribe for more insights like these. All right, so first up, let's talk about the proposed tax cuts. The speech promised to completely eliminate taxes on Social Security overtime tips, and even the interest you might pay on a car loan for an American-made vehicle. Sounds pretty great, right? Where's the catch? These promises, they don't exactly add up when you actually look at the numbers in the proposed budget. Just extending the existing tax cuts would cost over $4 trillion. The House Budget Committee has only allocated $4.5 trillion for all tax cuts. That means that to implement all the proposed cuts, they would need to find almost another $8 trillion. That's a fiscal impossibility. It's kind of like promising someone a delicious 5-course meal when all you have are enough ingredients for a simple sandwich. Something just doesn't add up. And speaking of things not adding up, the speech also promised to balance the federal budget, something that hasn't been accomplished in over 2 decades. But the current projections show deficits between $2 and $3 trillion each year for the next 10 years. That would add a massive $20 trillion to the national debt. Now factor in the proposed tax cuts, and that debt balloons by another $2.5 trillion. Balancing the budget, it seems highly unlikely with these numbers. But let's shift gears a little bit and look at some of the claims made about tariffs and their supposed, magic touch on the auto industry. The speech touted tariffs as a surefire way to boost American car manufacturing. However, if we actually look at the stock performance of some of the major players like Ford and General Motors, the story takes a different turn. Since those tariffs were put in place, their stock prices have absolutely nosedived. They've significantly underperformed compared to the overall market. And if you listen to what the CEOs of these companies are actually saying, it's clear that they're deeply concerned about the negative ripple effects of these tariffs, not only on their businesses, but on the entire auto industry as a whole. Okay, now let's drive out over the agricultural sector, shall we? The speech assured farmers that these new trade policies would be a boon for them, allowing them to sell more of their goods domestically here in the U.S. But here's where things get a bit bumpy. American farmers really heavily rely on exporting crops like soybeans and corn. And in fact, domestic markets for these crops are already pretty saturated. So losing those crucial export markets because of tariffs would actually hurt farmers, not help them. It's like trying to shove more apples into a basket that's already full. Something's got to give. And you know this isn't the first time the government's tried to compensate farmers for losses caused by trade policies. Past attempts have cost taxpayers billions of dollars, with no guarantee of success. Now let's shift our focus over to the international stage and talk about aid to Ukraine. This speech claimed that the U.S. has been the most generous supporter by far, shelling out a whopping $350 billion, dwarfing Europe's contribution of a mere $100 billion. But hold on a second, those numbers don't really tell the whole story. When you actually fact-check those numbers, it turns out that the real amount of U.S. aid is closer to $120 billion, while Europe has actually contributed more, coming in at $138 billion. And what's even more interesting is that while Europe is increasing its support for Ukraine, the U.S. is actually pulling back, both in terms of financial aid and intelligence sharing. And this raises some serious questions about the commitment to supporting Ukraine in its defense against Russian aggression. Okay, finally, let's zoom in on a particular initiative that was touted as a major win in the speech. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE as it's sometimes called. This speech boasted that DOGE had sniffed down hundreds of billions of dollars in fraudulent government spending. That's a pretty impressive feat if it's true. When you take a closer look, it reveals that this claim is, well, let's just say, a bit of an exaggeration. While DOGE initially claimed to have saved $8.5 billion, that number just shrunk considerably after some closer scrutiny. Their current claim stands at a much more modest $4.8 billion. It's mostly from canceled contracts and ongoing investigations. It's a far cry from the hundreds of billions it was initially promised. So what can we take away from all of this? It's a good reminder that we can't always take things at face value. When you hear these bold claims, especially when they involve literally complex issues like taxes and budgets and international relations and stuff, I think it deserves, a healthy dose of skepticism. And that's where fact-checking comes in. It's all about digging a little bit deeper, looking beyond just the headlines and sound bites, and actually examining the evidence for ourselves. It's about asking questions like, where do these numbers come from? What's the context here? And maybe even more importantly, what are the potential implications of all this? Because, staying informed and engaging in critical thinking are so crucial in today's world, especially when information overload is kind of the norm. So next time you hear a really bold claim that piques your interest, take a moment to pause, question it, and investigate it. You might just be surprised by what you find. And hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, please like and subscribe for more insights like these.